BSidesDC would like to thank all of our sponsors, and a special thank you to all of our speakers, volunteers, and organizers.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for getting here on a rainy, early Sunday morning, and welcome to everyone who's watching this on live stream. My name is Kathleen Smith. I am the Chief Marketing Officer of two job boards. The first is cybersecjobs.com. The second is clearjobs.net. But I'm most known for my volunteering within this community. I am on the planning committee for several of the BSides, including BSides Las Vegas. I run a 2-day career track there called HireGround. But in my volunteering in the community, I kept hearing something, which was, I'm having difficulty finding a job. And I was like, wait a minute. Why am I hearing from people in the community who have lots of experience that they're having difficulty finding a job when we're hearing about this shortage? And then I was also noticing that a lot of people who I was working alongside and volunteering in the community, they were moving on within their careers. So they would be a reg lead, and then from reg lead they would move on to somewhere on the board of the organization. And I would watch the parallel development of someone's professional career and their volunteering career. So I decided to do 2 studies last year. One was to ask volunteers in the community what were some of the things that gave them purpose as far as volunteering. How did they engage their employers? What did they find as far as skills that they had learned? The other one was a survey on job search challenges. We hear so many of the surveys that are out there that always talk from the employer standpoint, but not from the job seeker standpoint. What are those challenges? So this morning I'm sharing the data from 2 of those 2 surveys that really focus on what employers may want to include in their overall toolkit when they're looking at recruitment and retention. So as I said, we can hear anytime we turn on the news, anytime we look on, Twitter or something, that there is another gap, there is another talent crisis. If someone wants to have a really great sound bite, they'll tell you that there's 3.5 million jobs that will be open in cybersecurity by 2021. But those are sound bites. That's not going to help us solve the problem. So when we went into asking the community what were some of the job search challenges, we came back with some really interesting statistics. So the first was 65% of the people in the survey were currently looking for a job actively or passively. So if we have more than half of the community looking for a job, why are we not getting them those jobs that they want? We also asked some other key questions, such as, do you know how to find a job? Now, more than 45% said that they didn't know how to find a job, but we all know we don't like to tell someone that we don't know how to do something. So I'm pretty sure that this number is underreported, because of course someone is going to say, well, it's easy to find a job. I can find a job. There's this shortage going on. I should have no problem finding a job. We went a little bit deeper and sort of asked what were the top 3 strategies that people in the community were going to be using or had been using as far as finding a job. The first was asking their friends. So this looks very similar to employee referral programs, but you have to remember they're asking their friends. They're probably asking the same group of friends time in and time out. And we have to also make sure that you know who their friends are, and that's not as easy as we all think. The other was applying to jobs or looking at jobs of companies they know. And when I talk to job seekers, I say, can you right now tell me 3 companies off the top of your head that you would want to go work for? Most cannot do that because they don't know that you exist in the community and what you do. And third was that they went to online job listings. Now what's interesting is we've seen a lot of morphing in the community of job listings. They can be anything from Indeed, they can be LinkedIn, they can be a staffing firm who's put up a job board just so that they can get candidates. So it's interesting that they are looking at job postings. There wasn't any one job board that they were looking at, but they do look at job listings. We also asked them, who did they like to work with? And we've seen in the community sort of this uptick in the number of staffing firms and headhunting companies that are out there, and that's really great. But by and large, people in this community want to talk to the direct recruiter. They really want to talk to someone who sits at the desk that understands the culture and understands what's going on within that company. Unfortunately, in this community, too many recruiters who work either for a company or a staffing firm or a headhunter have really created sort of a bad blood with recruiters in this community. I mean, how many of you know the Twitter handle "shit recruiters say"? Or all of the various different YouTube videos that talk trash about recruiters. So it's interesting. They want to work with recruiters, but we have to make sure that the recruiters are really treating people well. We further asked, what were the job search trouble areas? So what was really stumping people when they were trying to find a job? The first and most important was they didn't know which companies hire for their skill set. So this is really interesting. This goes back, in my mind, this goes back to the job descriptions that we put out. But it also is making sure that we're talking about what kind of work we do in the community, rather than just saying we are a cybersecurity services company. That means everything. Are you a pen tester? Are you crypto? Are you forensics? Being a lot more clear with the community as to what you do. The second one, really important, and one that I hear a lot in a lot of conversations, is determining the next step in their career. We tend to take someone who is a pen tester at another company and put them in as being a pen tester at our company. And then when they leave, they go be a pen tester at another company. Rather than playing the role of being career coach. You've done this skill for 10 years. What about growing into another skill set? Let's grow you into another job. Or also helping them understand you did something in one industry. You can take that experience, you can take those certifications, and you can apply it in another industry. A lot of the career coaching I do, people are saying they're working in compliance, gaming compliance, healthcare, finance compliance, and they want to get out of it because they don't see a career path. And I'm like, please don't leave compliance, because we need so many more people who understand the regulations and understand compliance. Go and take that into another step within your career. And finally, finding the recruiters to work with. They want to work with recruiters. They don't know necessarily how to find them. And that's why I'm really excited when I see so many recruiters who are out in the community not going, hi, I'm a recruiter, I'm going to hire you. Like, hey, I want to get to know your community. I want to get to know what you're working on. I want to get to know the things that you're passionate about. Because we talk about that a lot in this community, passion. And not just putting someone into a job slot because it fills our recs, but finding someone who is passionate about a particular kind of challenge and making them part of your team. We asked some of the questions of, oh, that really doesn't show up well, I'm sorry. Things that companies can do to recruit professionals. So 2 things that really stood out, unlike my slide not standing out. The first is provide remote work. You will hear this time and time again on social media, that more and more people want remote work. And there's this conundrum. We have the technology, why are we not letting people do remote work? And a lot of people are saying, I can't get my management to approve remote work. Let's just talk about a day a month. 2 days a month. Let's see if we can incorporate just a little bit of time each month. Not necessarily an overall policy, but hey, you know, let's find 1 or 2 days. Let's take baby steps to incorporating more remote work. And the other is make your hiring process more clear, more attainable for a job seeker. I can't tell you how many times people are saying, they called me for the tech interview. I have the job. Not necessarily. You need to be very clear about the various different steps that are in your overall hiring process. That there's going to be the phone screen, that there is going to be the tech interview, there is going to be the panel interview. If you're in the cleared space, that the resume is going to have to be presented to the customer, that this is going to be somewhere between a 4 to 8 week process, We are in a society that expects everything to happen immediately. You need to set the expectations of your candidates of exactly how many steps they are going to have to go through to be called for that final interview that gets them the job. And what's interesting is a lot of people are saying, I can't put that on my website. I don't have a relationship with the website director to be able to do that. In every single one of your emails, when you're talking to the candidate, be sure you outline, you have something, if it has to get approved, get it approved. But the step-by-step process that that candidate is going to have to go through for your overall hiring process. And be sure that it is some steps that is shared in the initial phone screen. We're going to be talking to you today. We're going to be talking to you again in a few weeks. This is how you're going to go through the process, because we have a lot of people in the community that deal with anxiety and they never know what the next step is. If you want to build a really great candidate experience and engage that talent, set their expectations up ahead of time. Most of the ranting that I'm hearing on social media is because someone was called for a phone screen and then nothing happened after that. And they then say, well, you know, they're just a jerk. They're not going to get back to me. They don't understand your hiring process. Let them know that there are specific steps and that you're going to follow through on each one of those steps. We asked some of the questions as far as what are the things that people are looking for. We hear time and time and time again about the fact that people are looking for rock star six-figure salaries, that people are looking for a lot of money. But if you were walking around this conference this weekend, I hope you noticed how many children were here, how many families are here. People in this community are not automatons. They have families. I come to several of these conferences and you see several generations, 3 generations of people. These are people who not only want good pay, they want a good work environment. They don't want to be burned out. They want to feel safe. Make sure that they are working alongside people who respect them for the skills that they bring. Make sure that they get work-life balance too. I mean, everyone in this room that's doing the crypto challenge with kids, they also have soccer. They want to get off early to be able to do carpool. Don't treat them any differently than you treat the rest of your employees. Give them a good, safe work environment and give them a good work-life balance. So, many of you know that I'm involved in the community, so of course my solution to our recruitment and retention challenge is of course community involvement. And this is really important to me because I have not seen this in any other industry as far as the value of being involved in the community in overall retention and recruitment of hard to find talent. So when we went through our community volunteering survey, this was amazing to me. Over 50% of the people found volunteering stressful. We're talking about anxiety. We're talking about neck pain, back pain, standing on your feet, getting sick. Everyone gets con crud. But these are the people who are also working full time and have families. They can all say, 98% said that they found volunteering fulfilling. How many of us in the room can say that our job is fulfilling? It is not necessarily the job of the employer to provide fulfillment. It is the job of the candidate or the employee to find fulfillment. They're not necessarily going to find it in your workplace, but finding a place where they can find fulfillment in volunteering is one more step of you retaining your really great talent. The other thing that we found within the industry was that when we look at our industry, we look at the fact that it is breaches, negativity, anxiety, burnout, suicide, dark things going on in this community. However, all of the volunteers said that they felt that their volunteering was having a positive impact on the overall industry. There are not many industries that can say, hey, there is something happening in our industry that is being driven by our participants to make things different, to make it better. more often than not, people are saying, well, we're getting new compliance or we're getting something like that. But volunteering is making a positive difference within our community. When we looked at the skills that people were gaining through volunteering, there is an interesting correlation between the skills that they said that they were learning and several of the LinkedIn talent surveys that have been out saying the top skills that employers are looking for, the top soft skills that they're looking for, are teamwork, planning, communication. And these are the same skills that people were finding that they learned when they were volunteering. And there are not many places within the day-to-day workforce, day-to-day workplace, that people can say that they are going to gain their non-technical skills. We primarily use them for their technical skills, but we don't give them a place to work on communication, to work on planning, to work on organizing. And these are the actual numbers for this, is that 81% said they became better team players by being part of volunteering. They were able to say that they were part of teams that build the SOC, build the NOC, they handled the registration, they handled conflict resolution. And those are things that you're not necessarily going to find within the workplace because you're already putting them part of teams that they don't want to be part of. But if you're looking to create a better team environment, you may want to make sure your employees are working on that in another place. Organizing. Anyone who puts on one of these conferences knows that it takes a lot of organizational skills, and everyone organizes differently. So this goes back to the teamwork. I want to do things a specific way, you want to do things another way. Let's work this out. Conflict resolution. Communication. How many of us are looking for our technical teams and asking for them to be better communicators, both written and oral? So what's interesting is that we all think, well, they're just talking at the workplace. They're able to work on their communication skills within the office. Not necessarily. Just think about the communications, the talks that you do at work, and the people that you're having conversations with. You already know how that conversation's going to go. You already have set in your mind the different steps that conversation is going to go through. But you throw somebody in the middle of a crowd of 75 volunteers trying to put on a conference for 1,400 people, you're going to start working on communication skills because everyone communicates very differently. And that really needs to be fine-tuned, especially if you want to create a career path for your employees within your company. You're going to want to make sure that they're working on these non-technical skills. We went a little deeper and asked about sort of employer support for volunteering. And I was very happy to see this, that nearly 60% said that they stayed with their current employer because their employer supported their volunteering. And what do I mean by supporting the volunteering? It is a wide range. It is everything from my employer sponsors a conference. My employer pays paid time off for me to volunteer at the conference. There are several large companies in our space who figured this out a long time ago. And you'll notice at Hacker Summer Camp or a variety of other large conferences, you'll notice that all the employees are from several, 2 or 3 companies. And that's because they figured out a long time ago, if they make sure that they support their teams going to Hacker Summer Camp or a conference, they give them paid time off so that they can do the volunteering. And this is paid time off outside of sick leave and vacation leave. If you have someone who is a really great technical lead, you may want to consider talking with them about presenting at a conference. Because one of the things that people are really looking for when they're going to work for a new company is what is the technical street cred on that team. Well, you're not going to be able to go in an interview and tell someone, yeah, we got the really coolest people out there. No, you want to get them presenting at a conference. You want to get their followers, their people, understanding what they do. And I can tell you how many times I go and I listen to a presentation and no one knows who the company is that sent them because no one is engaging their employer to say, hey, I've been accepted at 3 or 4 conferences this next year. Would you mind paying my travel? Would you mind paying, giving me some time off for it? It is a constant gripe within the community that people are really great at what they do. They get out and they present, but they have to set aside their own personal budget to fly, stay at a hotel, and go and present at a conference. You are missing out on a phenomenal opportunity to have your employment brand out there in the technical community by supporting your technical teams to getting out and presenting. But you're going to have to work with them to make sure that they understand, hey, there might be some rules that we have as far as communication is concerned, and they can make the choice if they want to play by those rules or not. I can tell you, a lot of the people who are out there speaking, they don't follow the rules of their company, but they're very passionate about what they're presenting about, and they're going to go and present it anyway. We also asked, how much does an employer need to support volunteering in the community to make a difference for someone to move from one company to the next? And they said supporting 25% of my time would be enough to encourage me to leave one employer and go to another. And when you think about that 25%, realize that you're going to be able to take it from a variety of different budgets. You have a recruitment budget, you have a retention budget, you also have a training budget, you have a marketing and communications budget. I'm not giving you a solution here that is going to cost you several $100,000. It is something that already exists within your budgets. You just have to have a strategy of laying out, okay, there are 3 conferences coming up in 2020. Who do we want to send? Who do we want to sponsor? How do we get our employees out there volunteering? It is something that already exists within your company. So these are my suggestions as far as following the whole community involvement and solving the challenge together. So the things to improve your recruitment. Be sure that your job descriptions, and I will beat this one to death, and so will everyone in the room, really take a look at your job descriptions. If you're in the government contracting space, I realize that you have to cut and paste from the government award. But in the commercial space, we can all do a lot better about writing job descriptions. And job descriptions have been the bane of the candidate's experience for over 30 years. So this is not a new problem. This is something that we all need to work on. The second is being really clear about the skills needed to be successful in this position. So once you've rewritten that job description, take it to the people on the team that are going to work alongside that person, and make them flesh it out. Does this person need to, have passion about crypto? Does this person have to manage a variety of teams? Is this person going to be put in crisis situations? What are the things that this person really needs to know about being successful in that position? Outlining your hiring process, being very clear on your careers page. And you don't have to have a fancy video, and you don't have to have fancy graphics. 5 points. What are the steps that that person has to go through when they're contacted about a position at your company? And what are their expectations? Because you also have to hold yourself accountable to the fact that you've contacted a candidate and they're sitting there waiting. And if you're not getting back to them, bad on you. Make sure that you have internally agreed that this is going to be our hiring process. And these are the things that we are going to commit to the candidate that we're going to do. We're going to get back to them. We are going to let them know that they didn't get the job. They're not going to be left out there hanging. We are going to let them know that there are some things that they could do to improve getting that job. Because feedback, this is one thing I love about the military. If you move from one position to the next within the military and you don't make it to the next step, they're going to sit down with you and tell you why you didn't do that and what you need to work on. But we don't do that in the civilian life. We don't get back to our candidates and say, you were great, you just didn't have this certification. Or you're great, but the technical interview, you sort of got a little nervous on. Maybe work on that. Doing that step to build your employment brand with the candidate community to say you're giving back, you're helping. If you can't get out there and sponsor, if you can't do that, at least get back to the candidates and let them know what's going on in the hiring process and what they can do to be better hireable talent for you. And you really have to get out in the community, and I promised I wouldn't call on him, but like Kevin. Kevin is here all the time in the community. We have Kirsten Renner who's out in the community. We have Matt Duran. People who have not only been in the community just today, but they're going to the user groups. They're going to the meetups. They're actually buying the pizza for the meetups. They're getting out there. They're not going and hiring. They're listening. They're listening to the current tech challenges that are out there. You want to find someone who's going to solve a critical problem within your company? Go to a meetup and find out who's solving that on their own at their own home lab, or find the person who is really curious about the new solutions for that. But that requires you listening, and that requires you building your brand within that community. Like, hey, I'm just here to help out. I'm not here to poach, I'm here to coach. And what's interesting is that it is a constant activity to be in the community, not just when you're needing a job filled. Because what's fascinating to me is that just like job seekers who start working on their resume the day after they quit their job, we go and try to find the candidate the day that our boss is complaining to us that we need to have that position filled. Pipeline is 6 months, it's 12 months. Get to be known in this community. Get to be known as the person that is willing to do resume review like Kevin did yesterday. Like anyone who answers any of my calls that I put out for resume review, I'll have 8 opportunities in 2020 to volunteer in the community to be a recruiter resume review. Being known, being someone who follows them on Twitter, being the one that answers their frustrations on social media. Now, you may leave yourself open to be ranted on, and that does happen. I'm sorry, that's the way our society is. But being the one that gives back and help. On retention, if you're not involved with recruiting, but you really want to get better at retaining your talent that may be dripping out that bucket that we keep hearing about, understanding what pathways can happen within your company for your technical talent. I was thrilled when I was doing a workshop 2 years ago, and there was someone in the room that had absolutely no security experience, but had been working at a financial institution for 17 years and knew everything about financial regulations, government regulations, backwards and forwards. And his management went to him and said, "We think you're great. You know about compliance. Can we create a new career for you to learn security so that you can help us develop the strategies that we need to do to help mitigate any of the risk for our financial institution and also stay compliant?" So they were opening a new door for talent that was already inside, sending them through the certification process, sending them through the education and saying, hey, and they were giving him about 8 months to sort of investigate this industry and see if that's something you want. Coaching your managers so they understand that there are other opportunities within your company for your tech talent. Don't keep churning and burning the same tech talent. Make sure they have someplace else to go. Just like you don't want to go out and have to recruit a new person, they sure as hell don't want to have to go out and find a new job. Can you find them another area of the company that they want to be part of? Are they ready to go up into management? Are they ready to go into managing teams? Hey, if they're managing a team at a conference, do you know what it's like to manage all of these volunteers? They can certainly manage all of the technical talent you have. Give them that opportunity. A lot of people don't understand what their tech talent does. They know they fill the job posting, they know that they fill the requirement that's out there, but they don't necessarily know what the passion is of their tech talent. And the same thing that I say for veteran recruiting when I tell people, do you even know if you have Army or Navy or Marines on your staff? Can you take the time to go and survey your staff and say, what organizations are you part of? Who do you want, what volunteer opportunities do you want to do? What are the top 3 conferences you go to every year? I can tell you, if you sort of have nobody on your staff the first week of August, I can tell you where they're going. Why aren't you there? Why aren't you supporting them? Hey, maybe interview them afterwards. You know, what was their trip report? What did they learn? What was new out there? Making sure that you understand where your talent goes to satisfy their passion. Are they going to the CTFs? Are they part of the crypto challenges? These are things that can not only help you support them and retain them as talent, that can be taken over to your BizDel development crew. That can be taken over to your marketing group that can say, you know, we're paying all this money on advertising, but we're not getting any, you know, traction. Well, how about where everyone in the company already is, and they can be the walking embodiment of your company rather than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising. And coming up with an across the company program to support volunteering in the community, taking from that training budget, taking from that retention budget, taking from the communications budget, making sure that you're incorporating the community volunteering across the board as a way to retain your talent, recruit your talent, but also make sure that you have a bigger presence within the community. And since I heard the applause over there, I'm figuring out that we're almost done. Any questions? We do have a microphone. Well, you know, we are videotaping this, and we do have people live streaming.
So I work for a very small startup. There's all of 7 of us right now. We're out of Pittsburgh. And our main challenge right now for recruiting people is we need people that are able to hit the ground running because, you know, we're small, we're constantly busy. But we also kind of have to be able to manage our costs. So we try to present it as, could you take a pay cut now for a higher upside later? So we need to recruit those kinds of people, and we're having a very hard time. Do you have any tips for a small company like us to attract talent like that?
So there are a lot of people who are looking for that kind of opportunity, and they're usually people who have a lot of experience. So, but they're usually going to be people who don't have other financial obligations. So that is a very specific niche. In Pittsburgh, there are several meetups, user groups. There's BSides Pittsburgh. You know, yes, I'm a walking commercial for BSides. Definitely go to the Security BSides wiki and find out the calendar of all of the BSides. And I would really get more of your staff in volunteering in the community. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to parrot what I just presented. But being able to talk about passionately why you're a startup and the challenge that you are trying to solve with your startup, because a lot of people want to work with other passionate people. And passion does attract the talent that's looking for that. And it's just, what's interesting is that too many people in this community hear startup and they hear crash and burn, because too many of them have been, you know, they've taken that risk and they've done it and they've been burned. And if you are an entrepreneur that has a startup, really look at the fact of, okay, don't pull that plug too late and you've burned everyone. I just heard of someone who is in our space who, you know, thought that they were on this great trajectory, and all of a sudden they were losing, you know, $40,000 a month, and they sort of said, okay, we've got to stop this. So they stopped it, and they made sure everyone had a severance, versus what most happens in this community, which is people run it to the ground, then they leave town. And that is what most startups have to fight against, is that so many people have already gotten burned. But being very clear, this is when we expect to have the upside. This is, you know, be sure you have that window of when they're going to have that upside, rather than leaving them out there like, you know, I've been here 5 years and I've never seen an upside. You know, so you all have to have an expectation of when your upside is and being clear with people. Hope that's helpful. Yeah. Another question? You just stretching in the back? Yeah. Come on, you got to have, you know, burning questions. I mean, does this sound hard to people? Is this too simple? Did you want me to tell you you had to buy one of my products and spend $500,000 on it? Most people don't want me to speak because they think I'm going to speak about my products, but I haven't 10 years. So realize that we're right now here at the end of the year. Survey your teams and find out which conferences they want to go to in 2020. Is it GerCon? Is it ShmooCon? Is it DEFCON? What is it? Okay, you then know the top 3 that you want to go to, that your team wants to go to. Next question, who wants to volunteer at those 3 conferences? What is it going to take? Is it travel budget? Is it time off? Are they working on a project that has a deadline that's a week before that conference? That might not work. Who on your technical team wants to get out and present? Believe me, if you're working on someone on your technical team who is filling out the call for proposals, they're learning on their writing skills. They're learning on, how to do a short abstract, a long abstract, and the key takeaways that presentation is going to be. To me, that also signifies someone who's ready for management because they know how to write and they know how to convey their thoughts to an audience that may not be familiar with the topic. But you need to work with them because I can't tell you how many times they say, okay, the deadline for the CFP is tonight. I'm going to start working on my abstract. So maybe hold a brown bag and say, who wants to present at a conference this year? Let's help you with the timeline. Most of the abstracts are very easy to write. I did a workshop for getting more women in the community to present. And we had one woman who I had to drag kicking and screaming into the workshop because she didn't want to present. Oh, I'm running over? No, okay. And what's interesting is once she sat in the workshop, she got very excited about presenting. And she went home and wrote 4 abstracts and made a commitment to herself that she was going to present 12 times that next year. Now, I present at least 12 or 14 times a year, but that's my job. This woman actually then sat down with her manager and explained her professional development goal of getting out and presenting in the community on 4 different topics. That manager then went to corporate communications and said, how does this fit? They nearly died in happiness because they had a woman with lots of ink and pink hair who was going out talking about the neat technical stuff that they were doing. And she got accepted to 12 presentations. Yes, she ended up going to Brazil. She ended up going to Spain. She ended up going to 10 or 12 different conferences throughout the country. And she was a great brand ambassador for this very large tech giant that really doesn't have a good brand. So you've surveyed your teams. You've made sure that you found the top 2 or 3 conferences that they want to be part of. You've then found the tech talent. You then have to make sure that your recruiting team knows there's going to be some weekends you're going to be giving up. And you're going to get out and you're not going to be out there with a pamphlet. You're going to be there listening and you're going to have really cool Shwag. And people are like, okay, what is the really cool Shwag? It is not the fancy t-shirts. T-shirts are great. I went to Michael's and spent $5 on stickers and $22 on Baby Shark on Amazon. Do you know how many people I've collected emails and resumes from in the first day? It was over 150. Okay? I'm not talking about expensive things. I'm talking about understanding what makes this community tick and being part of it. Any other questions before I get really passionate about this topic? Okay, round of applause for me because I'm done.